good things come to those who wait, and you know, we waited, we went through the process, and you know, today's a really great day for you know, Kirill and his family, and the Minnesota Wild, the state of hockey, and all of our fans. So we're really excited about it. Congratulations to Kirill.
You can feel the relief, right? That weight lifted from Garen's shoulders here. The Wild start the season Thursday the 9th, so next week in St. Louis. The home opener is Saturday, October 11th, and a lot to celebrate there for Wild fans who that was a clutch. The clutch piece for that team. So good to see that come together. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back on the other side of it, Fargo Mayor is going to be joining us live. We're going to talk about what is going on just north of Fargo in Harwood and Fargo's involvement in this now. It's become a little bit of a controversy. So we heard one side, we heard from the Harwood Mayor last week. Now we're going to hear from the Mayor of Fargo when we come back. All Day Live continues right after this. And welcome back to All Day Live. It is 12:21 on this Tuesday. Beautiful day outside again. Just keep stringing them together. We have been following a story in Harwood, North Dakota. If you don't know where that is, it's just north of Fargo, kind of past the airport. They broke ground in Harwood on a new $3 billion AI data center. This is a really big deal for a small city, population 839. It's, according to the mayor of Harwood, something that they've been working on publicly now since July. The city council passed it unanimously. The mayor of Harwood was right here last week to tell us about it, and he said there was some pushback from people who had concerns. He doesn't believe those people were necessarily residents of Harwood. He thought they were coming in from, you know, Moorhead or Fargo, and we kind of thought that that was the story. But then the Harwood mayor told us that there's actually a bigger battle ahead that he's prepared to fight here, because he says the city of Fargo decided that it also wants in on this data center, and that they are in the process of annexing the land that will house it. So we wanted to hear from Fargo and get their side of things. Joining me now is Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney. Thanks so much for joining us, Mayor.
You're very welcome. It's an interesting story.
It really is. You know, there's a lot to be said about, you know, the data centers and the controversy around them nationwide, and we kind of thought this is where this was going. But Harwood Mayor Blake Kahnke was in here. He told us that, you know, frankly, he says this is, in his words, kind of a big city trying to bully the little city for, you know, its lunch money. He has been quoted as calling it dirty and underhanded. So we definitely wanted to get your side of things. What's going on here?
Well, we actually had an extraterritorial agreement with Harwood that expired in 2008, so we don't really have an agreement on that. Number two, I'm more than willing to have Harwood get the taxable revenue that comes off of this new site. But the reality is it's a $100 million site, which has a lot of complexities. If you look into data centers, it's really air conditioning for a computer. And there's a lot of different parts of that, including batteries, the lithium batteries that sit in there. There's a variety of different big industrial type of things that are in that. We were just asking is, can we do the building permits and regulation that needs to be done? Our fire gets involved, police gets involved. Harwood doesn't have the infrastructure. We have to supply sewer, we have to supply the infrastructure for the area around here, and it's in our industrial site. So if you look at it, at one time, North Dakota allowed extraterritorial 4 miles, then it went to 2 miles, and a lot of cities just took their extraterritorial to that site. What we're saying is the opportunity to really manage a project this size, we're familiar with that. We do building permits anywhere from $700 to $1 million or $1 billion a year in the city of Fargo. I have a team that can go through that. If they did a building permit in Dallas, it'd be $2.2 million to do that. City of Fargo, we do something in our location, it's $1.2 million. And that just makes sure something of this complexity gets managed and regulated in a good fashion. We have excellent relationships with all our people, all our cities around our area. We have no intention of harming Harwood. We just want to work with them.
So is it true, though, that Fargo did have an opportunity to work with Applied Digital and that did not happen? So we might ask why not just work with them when they came to you first?
So they did originally come to us, and then there was 2 plots of land, and they saw one on the right, one on the left. And the original plot of land was on the right in Fargo's extraterritorial, and then they moved it to the Harwood because we have a franchise fee. Now, Applied Digital claimed we were going to charge $25 million in a franchise fee, and that's not true. They eventually offered per building $86,000. And the reality is, if you follow the Xcel Energy, what they normally would do is something this big, they would charge perhaps $1 million a building. The taxes are about $1 million a building. Now, this company is making $11 billion in 7 years. They have the ability to pay that. But Harwood's going to discover all the costs for infrastructure, all the costs of roads you have to do, all the costs of things you have to do. $1 million is not going to cover it. You need more than that to cover all the things you need for a business this size. We put in an Amazon fulfillment center just south of there, and we've put in concrete roads, we put in roadways, water, sewer, everything in that location. So it does cost the city a fair amount of money to set up the infrastructure of something this size. We're just saying we can work together cooperatively, and Harwood can get the benefit it wants to get, and Fargo could help make sure it's done right.
But you can understand where Mayor Henke's coming from, I would guess, and I'll let you answer that. It just looks from the outside looking in, or from his perspective, that this is something that is going to be, as you said, I mean, potentially the taxable revenue here could be enormous. You know, Fargo, like a lot of cities, dealing with budgets and a lot of debt. So it looks to him as though now you're trying to get in on this or take it away. One of those two. You know, I guess a couple questions about when you entered into the picture here, because July looks like when Mayor Henke started these conversations publicly. I know there was some non-disclosure that you both had to sign with Applied Digital, but at what point did you say, you know, we need to do this? I'm just trying to paint the timeline picture here.
So when Applied Digital originally came to us, they were coming in the Fargo site. The next meeting we had with them was with Harwood and Fargo, and at that meeting they said we're going in the Harwood site. So the difficulty in an extraterritorial, it's first in line. The only way we can get in the negotiating table is to apply for that annexation. And that's really just to have us have a discussion. We're more than willing to sit down with Harwood Mayor, and I'm more than willing to give him the tax revenue. I don't have any problem with that. So I'm really not going to harm Harwood. I will help Harwood in many ways. But they also have some other things that they need in their community that we as two partners would have to work on. They have flood protection and they have a sewer agreement that we feel we both as partners can work together.
Mayor, where does Applied Digital want this data center to go?
They want to be in the Harwood extraterritorial so they don't have to pay franchise fee.
Okay, and again, so I know we keep saying extraterritorial, and it's kind of going to go over a lot of people's heads, including mine, before I started researching what that was about. We don't need to kind of get into the nitty gritty of that, but essentially, it's interesting here because I think people at home might be saying, "Wait a second, can cities just do this? Can they just kind of go, oh, I want this piece, and we're going to annex that"? Can you kind of explain in North Dakota law, who Fargo's rights here, and then Harwood's rights?
So oftentimes when you look at your city and where it's going to grow, you might mark out that we think we're going to go 2 miles south, and that'll be our extraterritorial. When you adapt it as your extraterritorial, then you have to follow the rules that are in that community. So oftentimes your planning, your zoning, how you make the land, then are under that extraterritorial rules. What it prevents happening is having satellite communities out 2-3 miles south of your city that need infrastructure. So it's to protect the city because we would have to provide the infrastructure for that community. Harwood has a sewer arrangement with us that allows for 10 commercial sites, not the size of this. It's not this bigness of what this thing is going in. So the reality is then you have to look at all your arrangements you have, because it's only fair. We have to know the capacity of what needs to be involved there. So the extraterritorial protects you in growth and development.
Okay, so according to Harwood's mayor Hankey, when he was here, he was really at that time, just late last week, drawing a pretty firm line in the sand, saying, "No, this is ours. We're going to fight for it. We don't want Fargo to have any piece of this." The city of Fargo has started this annexation process. So what happens now if he continues to say, "Nope, we're not going to do anything. We're not even going to negotiate," and you say, and you keep moving forward? Where do we cross over here? What happens?
Well, we'd love to sit down and negotiate, but what will happen in November, I think November 9th, there'll be an administrative judge hearing, and that really starts the legal process. Then oftentimes it'll go to mediation. And there's 6 or 7 criteria you have to meet in that mediation, or meet what you need to do in that community. And we're very confident that when you look at many of those things, the city of Fargo is prepared to, it has those elements that it can produce for an industrial site this size. And we feel we'll have a good discussion and hopefully go into mediation and find out something that's good for both communities.
Okay, so if not mediation, just so I'm understanding it right, then it would go to a judge who would rule on that. Is there any precedent, or how confident do you feel that if it does go to a judge, that it would fall in your favor?
Well, then it goes to the governor can assign a committee to look at it as well. And we just feel sometimes when you put, this is 2 miles south of Harwood, basically, so it's really not even connected to their city. So it's a large area, and they haven't really allowed a lot of protests to be discussed in this. There's a lot of people that have concerns about the data center. You have to allow public input on this particular issue. So we would just say there's a variety of different things that are in play here that will get a full airing when we finally have it in front of a court.
Yeah, meantime, ground is broken. I did ask the Harwood mayor about that too, because when he said that he learned about or started talking about it publicly in July, it felt like that, that's not very much time, but there were some non-disclosures, and I believe you may have had to sign one of those as well with Applied Digital. And we did talk about the fact that there was some pushback. He seemed to have, and by the way, we need to just give a credit to April Baumgarten with the Inform, who's been covering this extensively. And if people want to read more about some of the details here, definitely go to the Inform and read some of her reporting on it. Is very thorough and has been following this very, very closely, because there's a lot more here, right, Mayor, that we can't even really get into here in our 10 minutes together. But I guess final word here is, what do you want to say to the people of Harwood, the people of Fargo, the people you represent in this scenario?
Well, there's often opportunities for both communities to benefit from a big industrial site that comes into your community, but you also don't want to have issues with safety or issues with different things that come up with a project this size. All I'm saying is that you need to have the regulation. It's not the wild, wild west. So they have built a company in Ellendale, North Dakota, and they still haven't paved the road out there. It's still gravel. It's still things that you would think are normal that you would put in there. Do not want to, not not have the best infrastructure. If there's a fire or there's trucks coming in and out of there, you'd really like to have it set up as a standard industrial site that people can get in and out of. And as you know, this size of structure is huge. It's not small. It's going to take 10% of the energy in the state of North Dakota. So it is something when you get into, you really need to make sure the public is involved, everybody gets their say, and that we have a thorough discussion of what's going to happen.
All right, I'm looking at a deadline here for written protests of the annexation, October 31st, and then a public hearing, I think, tentatively scheduled for November 10th, and that's according just to a proposed schedule. So
Yes.
That's kind of the next steps here?
That's the next steps.
Okay,
yes.
very good. We really appreciate your time today. Mayor Mahoney, thank you for joining us and helping us kind of understand Fargo's side of the story as well.
Well, thank you very much, and really excited about the wild signing. That's going to be a great.
Maybe we should have started with that. We could have led with that and had you weigh in on that. But yeah, a lot of Wild fans. Sigh of relief today.
Thank you.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, take care. All right, well, to be continued. Wow, it is, as he said right at the top, very interesting story. We're going to take a break. All Day Live will continue after this. Much more to come. We're going to talk to our Jim Rich, who is in London, just right there. I just don't need to say anything more. Jim Rich in London. It's going to be good. Stay with us. All Day Live continues after this. All right, Dublin, check. We're on to London now. We're going to right this ship, and the Vikings are going to turn things around. It's going to be a completely different ball game. Our Jim Rich is in London right now. Jim, I don't know if we have a delay or not, but let us know where you are.
No, I don't know.
Oh, perfect. I think we're pretty good. Let us know where you are, what you're doing, what you've been up to today.
Flying an airplane. That's what we've been doing all day. We basically landed at 5 a.m. your time and just been going nonstop. We're here by our hotel. I don't know how Max Fuller did not get run over by a car in Dublin. Okay, I think I pay a little more attention to details than Max. I mean, these things are on the wrong side of the street. So you walk to the corner and you look this way and they're coming the other way. It is dicey.
Oh, well.
I can't imagine what it's going to be like driving when we get a car. That's going to be entertaining. But this is Westfield. It's Stratford City. It's a suburb. This was built for the Olympics that were here, I believe, 2012. So this is all brand new. This is a new neighborhood. A lot of those buildings were for the athletes, and now they've been turned into apartments here. I could show you everything that's around out here.
Nice.
There's that one, and then there's this one right back here. This big guy, look at that big guy up there.
Wow.
They got some big buildings here.
And so how far are you from the stadium?
Like these new toys they sent me with?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know where I am. I got on a train at the airport. I went underground, and I popped out at a stop, and they said, this is where you get off. But I tell you, their light rail people are so helpful because I had no clue. You have to tap with your credit card to get in. I was trying to get through this turnstile with luggage. It was quite the scene, I'm sure. Thank goodness I wasn't wearing any Fox 9 gear so people would tarnish our station for my lack of knowledge of how to get through their subway system. But it's cool. It is very cool, that's for sure.
So, Jimmy, when does is the team there already, or what's going on with them?
Yeah, the team is about 29 miles from here, but it says, according to MapQuest, an hour and a half to get there. Traffic does not move well in London, and basically, so they're outside in a resort complex. We're going to try to get in there tomorrow and hang out with the guys. We'll see if I could get through that security or not.
I was going to say, what do you mean by we're going to try to get in there?
Well, you know how well liked I am by these people. They're like, oh God, no, Jim, no, not there. So we'll see how that goes. And hopefully we'll be live there, and maybe even players will stroll by this wonderful device I have, and we could just talk right to them and hang out, and maybe we'll get you live guests tomorrow. We'll see how it all goes out.
What is the thing? What are you holding? Like, what did they give you? What's the little toy that they gave you?
Well,
it's
like this. No, I can't show you, but I could drive the camera around.
Oh.
It's steadier.
Gimbal,
Look, we can go up, look for airplanes.
I think Amber said it's a gimbal. I think it's the gimbal. They hooked you up, Jimmy. Look at you.
Oh, yeah. Sure, yeah, look at here. We could even flip away. Look, there it is, a double-decker bus. Yes. I got to get on one of those, too. We'll do a hit for one of those, too, riding around.
Amber wants you to do
there's another one over here.
Amber would like you to do a TikTok from the double-decker with your new gimbal.
What's that?
What's that exactly? Jim.
That could be a problem.
Hey, let's talk Vikings for a second here. Of course, that is why you're there. What are we looking at as we kind of shake off, last Sunday and move into a fresh game here? How's the team feeling, and what are we looking at with our competition?
I don't think they're feeling too good right now. I think the injuries are a problem. I go and check out to see if Kevin O'Connell wants me to go look at some rugby teams here to try to find some portly gentlemen that could be offensive linemen for the club right now. because now Brian O'Neill has a sprained MCL, I believe it is, so he will not play this week. You have Ryan Kelly in concussion protocol, so he more than likely will be out. So this team is really hurting, and we saw it already. Carson Wentz was sacked 6 times last week. He's been sacked 9 times in his 2 games, and the Vikings lead the NFL in allowing their quarterbacks to be sacked. So that is something that has to be addressed. Now, can they do that quick strike attack that Aaron Rodgers did to Brian Flores' defense? That's probably something that they'll be looking at this week to see if they could get the ball quickly into their playmakers' hands, whether it's Jefferson, whether it's Addison. But it may not be Hawkinson, because the tight ends, he and Oliver, may have to stay in to block just to try to give Carson Wentz some time to deliver the football. So that's going to be priority 1 this week, is try to patch up that offensive line, because this is the problem when you take a team overseas. Because, right, usually on a normal week, Vikings would have flew in a bunch of guys out to Egan and check them out, see if they wanted to sign them or not, whatever. Well, are they really flying people all the way over here just to say, we don't really like your stuff, and then send you back? I don't know how they're going to handle that. I will ask that question tomorrow, how you're going to fill the roster if you indeed need to go out and get some different players.
For sure. Really quickly, do you think that we'll see maybe JJ, so that he doesn't just have to come right back, get back home, and I think is it the Eagles? We play a big team right when we get back, right when they get back. Do you think we'll see JJ?
Yes.
Do you think we'll see maybe a Max Brosmer in London?
I think you'll see Wentz starting. I heard that JJ may be cleared to practice. We'll find that out tomorrow when we're allowed out there, and we'll see. But it'll be Carson Wentz that'll be starting again. I don't think they want to throw him in with that shaky of an offensive line right now with a bad ankle. I think you're asking for more trouble there. Brosmer, possibly, but really they're just looking for people to block, because Carson Wentz had 350 yards, and the 2 passes that were intercepted were deflections, so it wasn't really 100% his fault. So I think he did fine. I think they got to figure out a way to get a quicker scheme going, to get the blocking going, so Jordan Mason can start running the ball, because that's really going to be the key against this Browns team, because we saw Pittsburgh come in here. I'm rambling here, I'm sorry. Pittsburgh came in with the 3rd worst rushing offense, and they ran for over 100 yards on Brian Flores' defense. So they got to fix that too.
For sure.
All right, I'll stop.
It's okay. Amber, do I have time for one more quick question? One more quick one. I need to get your temperature on Rocco Baldelli, as I've not seen you since then. Big Twins news late yesterday.
What is that one? You throw the baby out with the bathwater? Is that a cliche you could use? It's dumb. I mean, yes, there are things that Twins fans have questioned over the years. His use of the pitchers, his use of relievers, that's all fine. But if you're trying to stick him for this 70 and 92 loss season that just completed right now, you're sadly mistaken, because you saw it. The trading deadline, you traded away the most players any major league team has ever done in the history of the game at the trading deadline. And then he's supposed to put a winner on the field. I don't think so. I think Rocco got more comfortable in the job. I think he got really started to like being a manager, and he just started to open up more with the media and kind of was feeling his ground more. And so I'm disappointed for him. I don't think this is what's going to fix the club at all.
All right, Jimmy. Thanks for that. We'll check back in with you tomorrow, okay? I know you'll get to chat with the team tomorrow. So enjoy your evening in London. Stay safe. Stay off your phone when you're crossing the crosswalks, so you don't get, in the way of some of those buses.
Oh, no. Yes, they're big too. They're very big buses.
All right.
I will stay with the tube and the underground. That's how I'm getting around.
Jim Rich in the tube. I love it. Thanks, Jimmy. We'll talk to you later. Have a good night. All right. We will, let's see. We will be right back after this. Live look in London. Jim is somewhere in there. Jim, where are you? Where are you? We'll be right back. And welcome back to All Day Live. Big news yesterday. Twins announcing they would not bring back manager Rocco Baldelli after 7 seasons. Really dramatic ending now to this really difficult season, as Jimmy talked about for the Twins. The team trading away just a big chunk of their roster, finishing with the 4th worst record in baseball. Obviously, money issues. We all know there's money issues, and questions surrounding the ownership. The Pohlads wanted to sell, then decided, nope, we're going to keep the team, but bring in some minority partners. All of that playing a really big role in the decision made this offseason. So this morning we did hear from President of Baseball Operations Derek Valvey, answer some questions from the media. Let's take a listen.
We didn't perform the way we wanted to over the last couple of years. That's no secret. And these are never easy decisions. There's no one reason for anything, but I worked closely with ownership to spend some time together. They discussed their perspectives on this, and we ultimately, it led to an organizational decision to make that change. Going forward, we continue to be in I will say, and admittedly, a bit of a transition phase. As Joe had announced, I guess a little over a month ago now, or the months blend together at this point, the change in the ownership structure and around limited partners coming in to be a part of this conversation. That is still ongoing. We're not quite obviously at the finish line with respect to that. My instructions at this point, obviously, to focus on this team, right? Get to the end of the season. What we had happened yesterday. In terms of off-season plan, we're still working through that, right? The off-season doesn't begin and end in October. We know that. It usually happens during the course of this month, but I don't have clear direction yet on exactly where we're headed going into this off-season. I hope to have those conversations over the next couple of weeks.
All right, now to the Lynx. A tough day for them. End of season media availability this morning. An incredible season. Dominated that #1 spot in the league for most of the year. Of course, it ended abruptly last week with a lot of fireworks, too. We heard from head coach Cheryl Reeve, who was ejected and suspended and fined, of course, after criticizing the league and the officiating, and then also heard from some of the players as well, and we clipped you some of that sound. Let's listen to that.
I think the second tier of not being in this from a fan perspective is the fear that we won't see this team all together again the next time y'all take the floor. Do you have any concern, or do you want to remain a Minnesota Lynx? You, Courtney Williams.
Oh, me? Okay. I mean, of course. Right, I love being a Lynx, right? But I think it's exactly what you said, right? There's so much uncertainty. I mean, even down to the CBA, right? Like, it's so many hurdles that we kind of got to get over before we can even get into the free agency talk. So hopefully we can get on the same page with the league and get the CBA negotiated.
Second question is purely for the fans. If the stud buds are on different teams, do they remain the stud buds?
I mean, I think so, right? I mean, it would be hard, but they got technology where we could try and make it work. But yeah, it would be hard though. You know, the reality is it's hard to try and create something like what we created and not be on the same team for sure.
You've talked a lot about just your relationship with Cheryl and coming to the Lynx. I mean, to see her have your back kind of in the way that she did after Game 3. What's that feel like as a player to know that even your coach has your back like that?
I mean, that's who Cheryl is, right? Like, she gonna stand on business. And that's what she do, bruh. Whether that be Fee, whether that be, you know, any one of us, right? She gonna give it up the same way. So that's just who she is.
I think the success that we've experienced over a 2-year period with a really, really special group, I would love nothing other than to say that we could be crowned champions, because it's a group that really deserves that. But 64 wins in 2 seasons is pretty incredible. The leading in offensive rating and defensive rating and net rating and all the things. But I think more importantly is, you know, I love the game. I love the basketball. I love the journey it puts you on, the highs, the lows, the ways that the players let us challenge them to be at our best. The larger thing that when you walk away and you reflect as a coach is, what did we, beyond basketball, who are we, what did we do, how did we do it? And I think that's something that's not lost on me when the players tell me that they look like I'm having fun. You know, I said I have 2 years, I've had a lot of fun. Doesn't mean I didn't have fun before. I show it a little bit better now. They've stretched my boundaries. But I don't know. I think how special, I'm just, the end of season brings, there's so many success stories and people recounting. I have players tell me how we've impacted lives and their communities and spaces that they're in, and, you know, what the Lynx have meant to people. I think that's what I'm reflecting on the most right now.
All right. Yeah. Wow. It's hard to imagine that team not together next season, but we shall see. All right. Let's take a break. Do we want to do this Zen moment here? Take you to the Bahamas? Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. Oh, thanks, Gerg, for this cruise in the Bahamas. We're gonna go with photographer Greg Kellogg. Gerg, taking on a sonic cruise. Let's go. Welcome back to All Day Live, our second hour here rolling into 1 o'clock. Thanks for being here today. We really appreciate it. We are awaiting a live news conference right now, and I don't know if we have eyes on that. I know you do, Amber. Is that a shot that you want to? There we go. Let's see. Looks like maybe we got a 1-minute signal there. I'm just guessing because that's sometimes what we do. Okay. Thanks, Russ, for that. Operation Twin Shield is what I'm seeing up on the board there. So this is a press conference about immigration fraud detection operation in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We'll hear from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and the FBI, who are holding this here, this press conference. So again, that's really all of the information we have. We will jump on that as soon as somebody comes up to the podium, and we'll bring that to you live as it's happening. While I'm waiting, if I have about 30 more seconds here, I can also tell you about the lawsuit that we're following as well from the DOJ. And you'll just have to interrupt me when they come up. But the DOJ is suing the state of Minnesota and, let's see, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Hennepin County, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, and Hennepin County Sheriff DeWanna Witt, basically saying that sanctuary city policies are illegal in accordance with the federal law. But on top of that, the DOJ is claiming that the refusal to cooperate is resulting in the release of dangerous criminals. Okay, let's listen into this ICE presser.
Welcome. We will now start the press conference for Operation Twin Shield. I'll turn it over to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Director Joseph Etlow.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. My name is Joseph Etlow. I'm the Director of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. I'm incredibly pleased to be here today to announce the successful conclusion to Operation Twin Shield, an enforcement effort of U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services with absolutely invaluable support from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, the FBI, and DEA. I especially want to thank St. Paul Field Office Director Samuel Olson from ICE for being here, as well as Abel Vecino from the FBI for joining us up here today. I also want to thank Jeff Brecht and Mike Kennard from FDNS, as well as Michael Borgen from USCIS. And also want to thank Bill McGinn, our FDNS chief in Kansas City, who was on the ground during the entirety of the operation. Since September 19th, officers from our Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, working in teams, have conducted over 1,000 site visits across the Minneapolis-St. Paul area as part of this operation. What they found should shock all of America. Focusing on a list of over 1,000 target cases involving more than 900 individuals, our officers encountered blatant marriage fraud, visa overstays, people claiming to work at businesses that can't be found, forged documents, abuse of the H-1B visa system, abuse of the F-1 visas, and many other discrepancies. Over the course of the operation, our officers found indication of fraud, non-compliance, or public safety and national security concerns in nearly a little less than 50% of the cases interviewed. We found troubling patterns with the Uniting for Ukraine program that should have raised serious concerns under other administrations, such as an individual filing to sponsor more than 100 aliens and organizations sponsoring hundreds. We are continuing to investigate these cases. Some of the other troubling cases that our officers found. In one case, officers identified an alien who had overstayed his visa waiver, who was the son of a known or suspected terrorist on the no-fly list. He had previously been found to have engaged in marriage fraud, which resulted in the denial of several immigration benefit requests. He was arrested and is now presently being returned to his country of origin. In another, an individual admitted to obtaining a fake death certificate in Kenya for just $100 to prove he was no longer married. In reality, his wife is alive, living here in Minneapolis, and is the mother of 5 of his children. And incidentally, he has another wife living in Sweden with whom he has an additional 3 children. In another case, an alien entered the United States without inspection in 2023, was released by Border Patrol. The alien married a U.S. citizen while in removal proceedings and was interviewed at the Minneapolis-St. Paul USCIS field office just last week, where both he and his American spouse stated under oath that their marriage was legitimate. The USCIS officers conducting the interview were suspicious. The site visits were authorized the same day. The American spouse ultimately that afternoon admitted the marriage was fraudulent and entered into solely for immigration purposes and withdrew her petition for that alien. This type of same-day action for interview, from interview to site visit has really never happened before. And I am incredibly impressed and thankful to the diligent work of the agents who made that happen for the first time, but not for the last time. And finally, I wanted to note, in one case, an alien engaged in marriage fraud by taking advantage of an elderly U.S. citizen spouse, including threats and severe neglect. The American spouse was able to divorce the alien with the help of her family and caregivers, but the family still lives in fear of retaliation from the alien over the failed marriage fraud scam. These are not victimless crimes. Every case of fraud we uncover damages our national security, undermines the integrity of our immigration system, and as I just gave you an example, has real consequences. I want the American people to know that we are declaring war on immigration fraud. We will continue to pursue those who seek to abuse our immigration system using every tool at our disposal. This operation, Twin Shield, is just the first phase of what we are looking at. The critical information gathered, the fraud patterns uncovered, will help us to combat fraud at the next level. We now begin the process of analyzing, cross-checking, reviewing cases using these results. These investigations will help us determine the next steps in many cases. We will be looking at grants of immigration benefits already given. We will be looking at other patterns, and we will be reopening, re-examining benefits to determine whether rescission, revocation is appropriate in any of these cases. Additionally, I would say right now that if you seek to commit immigration fraud in this country, you will find yourself meeting with our officers at USCIS. You will meet officers within our federal partners at ICE, CBP, FBI, DEA, whoever is working with us. And you will find yourself not only without benefits, but you will find yourself prosecuted. We will continue to tirelessly work with the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Minnesota, as well as in every other jurisdiction, to make sure that these cases are treated as they should be, and that aliens, attorneys, preparers, others who engage in immigration fraud are properly punished. I also want to touch briefly on the reception our officers received in the field. They were harassed, threatened, accused of being scammers, and even had the police called on them. At least one residence was so unsafe that they had to call off the site visit altogether. This is simply unacceptable, and I want to remind the public that our officers are doing a job to protect all Americans. They deserve the respect and cooperation as they go along with those duties. Under President Trump's leadership, we have empowered our immigration officers to thoroughly vet aliens as required by law, and to pursue immigration fraud wherever and whenever we encounter it. Secretary Noem has also recently delegated certain law enforcement authorities to me at USCIS that will allow this agency to establish a cadre of criminal investigators to increase the department's ability to fully investigate and ensure prosecutions of the very types of immigration fraud that this operation uncovered. As we work to undo the neglect of the Biden administration, we will continue to launch operations like this across the country. Operation Twin Shield was a major enforcement operation, and we will be bringing many more efforts like this to cities across the country. The results you see today speak for themselves, and they will serve to deter those who would attempt to undermine our country and its laws, whether for money, to gain legal status, or to harm the American people. At the end of the day, immigration fraud will not and will no longer be tolerated in this country. And now I'll turn the mic over to Sam Olson of ICE. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Good afternoon. My name is Sam Olson. I'm the Field Office Director for Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Removal Operations here in St. Paul and Minneapolis. I'm honored to be here today to highlight the critical and collaborative work that our agencies are undertaking to safeguard the integrity of our nation's immigration system. At ICE, our mission is clear: to identify, apprehend, and remove illegal aliens who pose a threat to public safety and the rule of law. And our officers are out there every day working tirelessly to ensure that we achieve this. Through our ongoing collaboration with USCIS, HSI, the FBI, and other federal partners, we have made multiple arrests of individuals who have submitted fraudulent claims on their USCIS applications. These arrests demonstrate the importance of interagency cooperation in preventing the manipulation and misuse of our immigration system. Fraud undermines the integrity of the system and erodes public trust, and we are committed to addressing it head on. As we continue this operation on our end, some of the referrals that we got from CIS, will continue to pursue additional violators and ensure that those who break our immigration laws are held accountable. Our work is vital to protecting public safety, upholding the rule of law, and maintaining the integrity of the immigration process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. At this time, we'll take your questions.
Lou Bergoose from KARE 11 News. Did the so-called sanctuary policies that are now subject of a DOJ lawsuit play a role, in your opinion, in the fraud that you encountered during this operation?
I can just say, speaking with our officers out here, we had great cooperation among our federal partners, and that's where the cooperation ended. Clearly, the sanctuary policies did lead to officers having to rely on their fellow federal colleagues in order to maintain officer safety, which is obviously our main, ultimately our main objective, to keep officers safe during these operations.
And then just as a follow-up, then, you mentioned multiple arrests. Can you tell us how many arrests were made and how many might be expected later?
At this point, I would defer to ICE on specific numbers, but from USCIS, we're still looking. As I said, we're gathering information based on the site visits that we conducted, and we will take additional action as required.
Mr. Edlow, Matt Sepik with Minnesota Public Radio News. Has anyone been charged yet? Have any of these cases gone to the U.S. Attorney's Office here in Minnesota, or grand jury for that matter?
Again, this is a new operation that's just ending now. We're still in the phase of gathering everything, working along with our federal partners at ICE, especially HSI, as we make the arrangements to determine who is going to be charged and for what.
Joey Hughes with the Sahan Journal. Just a question. You said 900 individuals implicated in this. Does that mean 900 people are detained as a result of this? Or can you elaborate on that?
No, 900 people were not detained. As I said, there were over 1,000 target cases that USCIS was looking at based on the data, and those individuals were interviewed, were contacted. In terms of what happened with an individual case, that's done on a case-by-case basis.
Mike Berzoni from KSCP. Could you explain to folks, because you talked about this is going nationwide, why was Minneapolis selected to begin this operation?
The data. Clear, just the data. When you look at what we're seeing as concerning patterns of fraud, we're seeing good cooperation here, especially among our field office, working with our federal agents. It just makes sense to start in a city where we have a sense of what's going on and where we can try to make an impact on certain things like the immigration fraud from marriages and things of that nature. So it really was based on reviewing data, but this is, as I said, this is not the only city where this is going to be. This is the first of many.
Mike Berzoni, Fox 9, you mentioned that some of this should have been caught earlier in previous administrations. What wasn't being done, in your view, that should have been done in previous years? Well,
you're aware of the CHNV, the parole programs that the previous administration was involved in, bringing people in. People here were allowed to sponsor individuals to come in from certain countries. As I said, we found organizations here that were involved in sponsoring many individuals. They did not know necessarily the individuals they were sponsoring. They were doing almost a blanket sponsorship. That is fraud. That's something that should have been caught. It's something that I know the previous administration was aware of how the sponsorships were happening, and no action was taken. I'm glad to see that we're taking action.
And a couple of these phrases, just to kind of spell out what you're seeing. So when you say marriage fraud, what does that mean? Does that mean like a U.S. citizen is getting married to somebody for the purposes of?
I'm going to turn that over to our FDNS experts who can explain it probably in better terms.
Yeah, so the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, allows people to petition for family members. What it doesn't allow is for you to petition for someone where you don't have a bona fide marriage, right? So you've entered into a marriage solely for the purpose of circumventing the immigration law. That would be the marriage fraud.
And then
Jeff Brecht.
The phrase site visit, does that just mean like almost like doing a search warrant or like
No, I mean, these are administrative, right? They submit information, and we go out and we verify the information.
And so that's something that they expected to happen? Or?
Yeah, when they petition, they sign the back of the form that says they consent to that.
Okay.
What about back did these marriages go? And the examples of marriage fraud that you found, when you say like, was a marriage conducted several years ago, or you know?
Well, in many regards, it's a lengthy process, right? I don't have the data on how old these were. I mean, some of them may have been within the past half year. Some of them may have been a year and a half old. I don't have the data for you on that one.
Can someone comment on, you said this just wrapped up, this operation. When did it start and how long was it?
Yeah, the operation started on September 19th.
Can you speak at all about the country of origin of the folks that you've been investigating? You mentioned Ukraine.
I mentioned United for Ukraine, but it runs the gamut. This was not targeted at any individual country or person. This was done looking only at the data of what we saw as concerning cases involving fraud. Listen, at the end of the day, this is what the government should be doing. We have a responsibility to keep this system legitimate. And when you see what has been uncovered by these diligent officers over the past 2 weeks, less than 2 week period, that's only the tip of the iceberg to what we're actually dealing with when it comes to immigration fraud. That ultimately is, in my opinion, the same thing as a threat to our national security, a threat to public safety, and something that we've got to take seriously. I don't think this would be as newsworthy if this was, the IRS going after tax fraud. No, you all would expect the government to go after tax fraud. Well, you should be expecting the government to go after immigration fraud and benefits fraud the same way that any other fraud is perpetrated against the government.
Christy Belcamino, Pioneer Press. I'm just circling back. You said that you would have to ask somebody else about the number of arrests. Could you possibly do that? You said somebody behind you for the total number of arrests.
For the number of apprehensions?
Yes.
Did you have the numbers on that?
Right. Numbers, like, we don't get into specific numbers. Right now there's been multiple arrests and they're ongoing. There could have been more arrests happening today that I'm not aware of, so I don't want to give you a number. That right now it's been multiple arrests.
Okay. Thank you.
Really quickly, just one more. You said that this has lasted, it was September 19th, that more cities are coming. Can you share what other cities they are? And you talked about data. Can you talk about what data drew you to Minneapolis?
Again, looking at the petitions that we have available to us, the way that our officers that have been working in this arena for many, many years look at the various petitions, applications that have been filed, we look for patterns. We look for fraudulent patterns that we then want to target for the site visits, as our fraud detection national security individuals just explained. Ultimately, I'm not going to speak as to what cities may be next for operations of this side, but I would say any city should be prepared to be the next site for an operation of this magnitude.
So there
Thank
were
you.
red flags in Minnesota. Is that kind of what you're saying by that?
There's red flags everywhere, but based on the work, the cooperation, the work that we knew we could count on with our field office that has acted so incredibly here, not to mention the collaboration with our FBI partners, with ICE, we knew Minneapolis and St. Paul were a good place to start to get that coordination and to start addressing the red flags that we found. Thank you all.
Thank you. this is all the time we have. This concludes our press briefing. I will be available to assist you with reporting needs after. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have been taking that live, and we can debrief that here on the other side of the break. But we want to take a break for you right now. The time is 1:19 here on All Day Live. Much more to come, more headlines, more developing news here as the day moves on. Oh, thank you, Operatum. That is a beautiful shot. Lovely. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us. Welcome back to All Day Live. 1:21 is our time, and we're kind of overcast today where we are here in Eden Prairie. A little cloudy, but still really nice, really warm. Keith's been talking about possibly record heat this week. So goodness sakes, it's October, and here we are. So hopefully you enjoy it. If not, don't worry. Your time's coming too. It's going to cool down. Let's go through a couple of headlines here. Amber, do you want to pop in here for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to let people know that we are going to be headed to the state capitol at 1:45. Amy, we are expected to hear from some DFL leaders. They're in negotiations in regards to the special session. It sounds like things were kind of falling apart this morning from what we've heard. Okay. But again, expecting to hear from DFL leadership 1:45, so I don't know, math, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Our photographer is on the way there. We'll bring it to you live. If we run past the end of the hour, we're going to keep it going. Always, you can watch it on Fox Local, right?
Yeah, keep it streaming. That's what we do. After 2, we'll let our television folks go.
Oh, Amy, I just got word from the newsroom. It sounds like we might hear from Minnesota Republicans at 1:30. So in 8 minutes.
In a couple of minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that would make sense. So we know. I think the DFL at 1:45 is potentially Senator Aaron Murphy and Representative Zach Stevenson.
Yep.
On the DFL side, and then now it sounds like we'll hear from Republicans at 1:30. So we'll bring that to you as well. Get in place, hopefully.
Yeah, we have our photojournalist on the way there.
Okay.
I'm looking in to see if he will be in place by 1:30.
Yeah, the special session around gun reform that the governor has said that he wanted a framework first in place, and then also getting past some of the special elections that have been held. So yeah, I think we'll be getting an update here. We'll see what they have to say. That Senate working group that met a couple of times about 2 weeks ago or so, it didn't seem as though there was much that came out of that, although Governor Walz did come out of that. I remember, as well as Lisa Damath in the House also came out and both kind of said, we're still talking, we're still open. So we'll see what happens here.
So I'm reading here, it sounds like we're going to hear from the Speaker and Leader Harry Niska.
Okay, yep. So
1:30
those two Republicans at 1:30. Okay, and we'll bring you those, and Amber will let us know when those are up and running, and we'll hit those and keep on going. And then there's something else on streaming at 2:15, right?
Sorry, I don't have a lower third for this one, but 2:15, we're expecting a press conference on the speed lights going up in Minneapolis.
That's right.
So I confirmed with Mary earlier today. It sounds like those cameras. Sorry, I said lights. Cameras are going up on stoplights is how we're understanding this. The camera's getting turned on today, but the whole program really gets going tomorrow.
Gotcha.
So kind of a warm-up press conference here at 2:15. So hopefully if everyone keeps on trucking along, we'll be able to bring all of that to you guys live.
We're gonna do our best, and yeah, again on the streaming side, it's a lot of plate spinning and juggling on your end, but yes, on the streaming side. So again, if you want to keep watching, it's the Fox Local app, also our YouTube channel, where we're just gonna kind of keep going whenever stuff is happening. We just keep going on that side of things, which is the beauty of streaming. We love it.
You want to take care of White Bear Lake and the other headlines here, and I'm going to get things squared away with our team.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah, thanks. Let's get people up to speed here on a story that we're following that broke just right before the show started, about an hour before. So our newsroom has been trying to sort of scramble to get as much official information as we can, but we do know that there's an investigation underway at White Bear Lake High School right now after some allegations that a person over the age of 21 enrolled in school using some fraudulent documentation, false identity. So the school ended up sending out a message today, and that's kind of what we were waiting for last hour to make sure that we could report some of this, but basically telling parents that this person is in custody and not allowed on district property, and the school is working with White Bear Lake Police at this point as well. They're conducting their own investigation. So again, in the statement, and I'll just kind of read a little bit of it here in real time, reaching out to students and families to provide an update about an individual alleged to have enrolled in our high school using fraudulent documentation, false identity. We received reports that this person was over the age of 21, promptly started an investigation. And let's see, upon our initial investigation, we've determined that while enrolling this individual, we followed our enrollment processes, which is as rigorous as state law allows. The individual appears to have produced fraudulent documentation and a false identity to enroll. Continuing to investigate, and so that is a story that we are covering here. We've got a reporter on that. We'll bring that to you here a little bit later this afternoon as we get more information on that. Also, continuing to keep an eye on the situation in Des Moines with the public school district there. This is a story that broke late Friday afternoon. And the thing that we're watching this afternoon is a deadline that was set by the public school district in Des Moines, and basically telling the superintendent, his attorneys, they said to the attorneys, you need to produce some more information here to us by noon. Today was the deadline, so that we can make a decision. Either we are going to terminate the superintendent's contract, or we will allow him to stay on unpaid leave while this case plays out. So those are the two directions this was heading. So this was a deadline and a meeting set for noon here, and we don't have any additional updates for you on that. We just played for you, or you just saw live this press conference scheduled here on Operation Twin Shield. We'll be doing much more on that later here for our newscast and then on our website. Also, somebody just put this in our internal channel here, Fox News Digital. So if you go to the Fox News website, they have a write-up on this as well that kind of details everything from that press conference that we just rolled for you live here. We showed you live. And then, let's see, the DOJ suing Minnesota. We talked about that as well. Another really big federal story that is looking directly here on Minnesota today. So a lot of those stories that we are keeping an eye on, and we'll bring you the very latest throughout the day. One thing we wanted to bring up to you that happened up in, Anoka County this morning, Andover. There was a man who was killed in a crash. This was with a school bus this morning. in Andover. I know we had the chopper out there to take a look, and this is that scene right now. So this is a scene, earlier this morning. Right now, sheriff's deputies are telling us that a man was driving a pickup truck, had a trailer, you can see it right there behind. He crossed the center line, they say, and hit that bus head on. So the driver died at the scene. There were 5 students on that bus. They were headed to Anoka High School, and we're told that one of the students, also the bus driver, were taken to the hospital. They had non-life-threatening injuries, and then the other students on the bus ended up going home from that scene with their parents. So wanted to update you on that. All right, a couple of regional stories here that we didn't get to earlier that we wanted to circle back on. And we want to start in St. Cloud, where there's a big rebranding happening there. The regional airport. So here you go, drum roll, please. The regional airport in St. Cloud being renamed the Sky Central Airport. And the goal here is to, they say, better reflect the location and diverse services. A new logo is also going up with that change. The airport director saying that it's going to take some time probably for people to adjust. You know, change can be hard for a lot of us, but comparing it to the rebranding of like the X in St. Paul, which we now call Grand Casino Arena. So yeah, there is that learning curve of like the muscle memory, right? Important note for the next time you might be booking a flight though, if you want to book out of St. Cloud, you're going to look for the Sky Central Airport. The international 3-letter code has not changed though. STC makes perfect sense. That will stay the same. STC. All right, that's what's happening in St. Cloud. And then how about let's go to Eau Claire, over to Wisconsin. Leader Telegram with this one. The transit transfer session. Sorry, can't speak. The transfer. Nope. Try that again. I'm going to take it one word at a time. Transit Transfer Center is now up and running. This is a 10-year project, 10 years in the making, and the Leader Telegram saying that it has some space for pedestrian boarding on 10 buses at any given time. New structure and lobby protects riders from the weather as well. That's important when you're standing out there. The new transit center just a couple of blocks from the old one, just in the heart of downtown Eau Claire, and they're still building apartments above that, so part of a bigger project there for the city of Eau Claire. Oh, okay. Sounds like the GOP is coming up to give us an update on the special session plans. Let's listen in to them.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us today. As we have heard for the last month through the media, first of all, and thank you for each one of you reporting. We've heard that the governor is going to be calling a special session. The idea behind that, as he has shared, is due to the tragedy that happened at Annunciation School and Church in that community. And what I'd like to tell you today is, again, as all of you know, the governor is the only person in the state that can call a special session. We are waiting for the governor to do that. I have been in meetings for the last probably 2 weeks on and off, the 4 leaders and the governor, and we've been in those conversations. And today, our meeting was very brief. We, as you saw in the public, the Democrats had put forward parameters that would have really silenced the voice of the legislature to get work done in a special session. I returned an idea, kind of a broad framework that just reiterates, again, Governor, when you call that special session, as you know, House Republicans will show up. We will be there to work. We are fully invested in the work that needs to happen. We will do that. We also want to give the legislature the full process to hear bills, vet bills, and have them go through the committee process. In the House specifically, we are tied, and so anything that goes through both the committee process or that gets passed off the House floor will need to be bipartisan. We've already done that work throughout this entire year in the legislature, and that would continue even with the topics at hand. That means any member would be able to introduce a bill. They would be referred to committee, and then the committees would take their process. That is what we put forward to the governor today, what I had put forward to him, and just saying we want that legislative process to work. Again, the governor is the only one who can call a special session. We stand ready to fully participate in the legislative process. The legislature is the only body that can pass bills, and then of course the governor could either sign or veto bills. But that's where we stand today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Leader Harry Niska.
Thank you. Well, it's become clear, I think, to everyone what should have been obvious from the start, that the governor's talk of a special session has been a partisan political stunt from the beginning. Unfortunately, he has not been interested, or has not acted as if he's interested in finding bipartisan solutions to the problem of school safety, the problem of public safety, the problem of mental health, but has instead been trying to demand something that's really, frankly, bizarre in the history of special sessions in Minnesota. The idea that Democrats who wouldn't even give certain bills hearings when they had the majority now want to fast track those bills through without actually even releasing what the language of those bills would be, but try to fast track those through in a special session. Normal special sessions are either things that have broad bipartisan support or things where there's been a legislative process that almost got done before there was a need for a special session. This isn't anything like that. Republicans have been have made clear that we're open to serious bipartisan solutions when it comes to school safety, when it comes to public safety, when it comes to mental health, and now it's clear that the governor really isn't interested in that. He's really just interested in trying to politicize a really horrible tragedy, and that is really unfortunate for the state of Minnesota, the lack of leadership from his corner. We'll take questions.
Did you guys submit a proposal, and what did that include? What did that not include?
Again, yes, I did send something over to the governor's office, and it included the fact that the governor is the only one that can call that special session. Bills will be introduced. Determinations would be made if we would go that far as any spending that would take place. That could be discussions and decisions made by the four leaders. Bills will make their way through the process and then be able to be voted on, whether it's in committee or on the House floor. It was just very basic of how the legislature actually works. And to Leader Niska's point, I think it's important to recognize the work that we did when we returned on June 9th for a one-day special session. That work had already been fully vetted all the way through the entire legislative session. Bills were introduced, they were discussed. As you know, we have co-chairs in every committee. That was already worked on. This is a very unique situation that we can handle, but it needs to fully be vetted through the legislative process in order to get the work done in a bipartisan way.
Did you guys have any mention in your proposals of gun legislation at all?
We didn't have anything specific as far as any bill language or any specifics on that. We included school and community safety, mental health supports, public safety, and as you know, public safety also includes guns, firearms, and any type of law that goes around that. So it's very broad, but we also had said not limited to that. As you know, the governor has been very clear on wanting to handle the fraud that continually comes up to the surface where you're reporting on fraud. That OIG bill did not get over the finish line in the House at the end of this year. And so this would give the opportunity, should the governor want, but specifically should legislators want to move those fraud preventions through, they would be able to do that in this process. Again, bills introduced, referred to committee, passed through committees, and then back onto the House floor.
I know you've said that you didn't see language around any kind of gun restrictions for these states, but is there any world where you would even consider like a restriction or any kind of ban on an assault type of weapon?
Well, I think what's clear, and what I think the media has been clear in reporting, is that there's not any sort of language along those lines that has majority support in either house, in either the House or the Senate. In fact, from a lot of reporting, it sounds like anything along those lines would have bipartisan opposition in the Senate, which is currently down 2 members already. And so Democrats, I think, would maybe be at 30 or maybe 31 votes in the Senate on whatever configuration of that language is, which I think is why the governor hasn't actually put out any specific proposal that even could be heard or could have hearings about. I think another important thing to remember is, even though bills like that have been introduced, even when Democrats had the majority, they didn't even bother having committee hearings on those bills. So what the governor is asking for is that we just pass bills that A, haven't been written yet, and B, have never had committee hearings, and skip past the entire legislative process
ignore the voice of all of the other legislators, all of their districts, and just skip straight to the end based on demands that he's making to leadership. That's never been the way we govern in Minnesota. It's not the right way to govern in Minnesota, and really it's just political posturing by the governor, which is a really unfortunate way to handle a tragedy that we should be able to come together and find some solutions on.
Well, obviously, you only control your caucus, so you heard the annexation parents, they want an assault weapons ban, high capacity ammunition ban. Does your caucus support anything even close to what they're asking for?
I don't think that there are any Republican House votes in favor of those kind of proposals, but it's again, you have to actually have bill language. You have to have hearing on a bill in order to see whether there is some place where those things can come together. But the other states that have done that are A, tied up in legal challenges, and B, haven't really seen results that would suggest that that's a real solution to the problem.
Leader Iska, you told one of our reporters that you wouldn't let a bill, an assault weapons bill, even come to the floor. So how can you talk me through how that is transparent in the way that you're asking for?
I said I was not going to vote for putting that bill on the floor in the Rules Committee, and I believe I said I hadn't asked the other members of the Rules Committee how they would vote. But I did. But I do think it's unlikely that would come through the Rules Committee.
Is your guys' understanding that a special session will be happening at this point, with or without your support? Like, is that going to be called? Is that announcement imminent? So how much that work logistically with to make up the election?
So again, the governor is the only one that can call the special session. If he chooses to do that, or when he does, House Republicans will be there. We will not deny quorum in the House. That is something that we will not do. House Republicans show up and we do the hard work for Minnesotans. So if he chooses to call it, or when he chooses to call it, we will be there ready to work. Any other questions? Yes?
Just in the outline of the proposal the governor did, do you see parts where there's a lot of agreement between parties and other proposals there?
You know what, as far as the proposal that made its way out to the media out of a closed-door 4-leader governor meeting, multiple meetings, I think that questions for that should best be directed to them.
Leader Johnson's statement made it sound like the negotiations today deteriorated pretty quickly. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like in the room?
You know, again, as I've said multiple times, the fact that we are still talking, that is a good sign. And so we had a meeting today. It was brief, but we were still meeting. And I think that will continue. We have a long year ahead of us. Whether the governor chooses to call us back into a special session, or when we return on February 17th for our regular session, the topics that are at hand are still going to be very much part of discussion. We recognize that. So in no way do I think talks have broken down. I think the governor is really doing his job as governor, the only one that can do that, to try to decide whether or not a special session calling for that is the appropriate thing at this time. Anything else?
Yeah, looking at the governor's proposal here, it does sort of look like an all-of-the-above approach, and that's sort of the same language that I've seen out of your caucus as well, but obviously the missing piece here is guns. So why, if all of the above is the way forward, why is guns not?
Let me direct you, and I don't have a copy of that in front of me right now, but I'll direct you to the part that talks about only these items. It cuts the legislative committee process out. That is concerning. As you read through that proposal, we have to have bills that are fully vetted within the committee process and then moved forward. And so I'm not going to get into the specifics on that. Those are good questions for how they see that working. But typically what we would be doing is we would be having conversations about framework, logistics, time frame, and security concerns about a special session. And then the legislative work can continue on in a condensed form, but can continue on in a transparent process, and then we would go from there. Anything else? Any other questions?
Just to clarify your point here, is your specific contention that you're expressing there with the part that says if any legislative committee is unable to agree to final details, legislative leaders and the governor will be responsible for approving final language, etc.?
That is part of it, but if you go further up into the document where it talks about only these items before the list of A through I think it is, that sentence right before there is the one that is of most concern. Any other questions or clarification? Thank you again for being here. House Republicans stand ready to go. We will lead with integrity, and we look forward to doing the work for the people of Minnesota. Very, very hard topics, but things that have to get done. Community safety, school safety, mental health supports, and punishing criminals. As we've seen the number of shootings across Minnesota escalate, we have got to get a hold of public safety too. That includes our kids in our schools. We look forward to doing the work, and it will continue on. Thank you.
Okay, live at the state capitol, as we just heard from the GOP on the progress that's being made, or lack of progress, I guess, is depending upon how you're looking at it. According to Lisa Damas, though, it's good that they are still talking. There are still conversations going, but really putting it back on the governor to say that he is the only person who can call a special session. And then we're going to hear from the DFL coming up here any moment. Actually, 1:45 is when they were scheduled to give their side of things as well. So we'll bring that to you. And I'm not sure, Amber, if it's coming from that. I'm guessing that same space, that same room.
It will be. Yep.
Everybody is set up. So we'll take that as soon as we start to see them come in. And we are expecting to hear from, I believe, Democratic Senator, DFL Senator Aaron Murphy, and also DFL Representative Zach Stevenson from the Democratic side to hear their take on things as the reporters get their shot back up. So that is where we're at on the special session talks that have been going on. And the governor, last we heard from the governor on this, and also Representative Damas, it was probably mid last week. Looks like they're kind of just doing some mic checks and getting ready, when he had done sort of a check-in to take the temperature and see how things were going. And at that time, he seemed still optimistic that they would make some progress. So we'll see what happens when the DFL takes the podium here. While we're waiting, Amber, let me know if you happen to see them come on in, or you can actually just leave the shot up if you want, you guys. That would be helpful. I can go through a couple of other little things that but just notes, small notes that I've made about some of the other stories that we are following right now as we're waiting. And one of them has to do with the potential for a government shutdown. We're talking about this obviously at the federal level. So tonight is that midnight deadline for the federal funding deal to come together or not. The House pushed through a continuing resolution about a week and a half ago or so, and then it went to the Senate, and that is where it has been since then. We know that GOP House members kind of went back home. We actually interviewed Republican Congressman Tom Emmer here in this room a week ago today, who talked to us a little bit about the negotiations, and he wasn't concerned at that point. At that time, when I asked him about a week ago, do you think that we will end up in a shutdown situation? He said no, he did not believe that they would get there. He even made a comment about, I believe he said we're all friends, and they were working it out. We had heard a lot from Chuck Schumer at the time, who was saying this is not going to work. We've heard from Hakeem Jeffries, also on the Democratic side, who has put forth a lot of concerns and said it doesn't look like we're going to get there. So we shall see by tonight at midnight as these debates continue. They were on recess when we checked in just a little while ago, about an hour ago. They're probably back at it right now, I'm guessing. And I'm just looking through my notes here in real time. Sorry.
Amy, yeah, I do have an eye in D.C. as well, and yes, they are back in session negotiating in the Capitol, so they got back in there at about like 1:15.
Great, and thank you for that. And then I know just from our notes here from earlier, it looked like that the potential for a vote could happen at 4 o'clock our time, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, that is what I was seeing from some other senators out there, some Republican leadership specifically, saying that John Thune this morning was hoping to get a vote on the table at about 5 o'clock Eastern, so 4 o'clock our time.
Okay.
Again, midnight deadline, so, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, we shall see. And the continuing resolution basically is an extension. It's something that that the House passed through and then passed to the Senate and said, we wanted to, I'm paraphrasing, obviously, buy a few more weeks basically to try to work on the full budget and some of the other things that they had to tackle. So it was a continuing resolution, meaning it was just buying them a little bit more time to try to meet and iron out some of these other bigger fish that they're frying right now. The other one thing I wanted to just mention, also having to do with the federal government, is this story of the potential of, well, the likelihood actually of about 100,000 workers, federal workers, who are expected to turn in their resignations today. It would mark the largest mass resignation in history, and this is all part of the Trump administration's deferred resignation program. Remember, this was announced back in January, where there were certain markers along the way where federal employees could retire early. They could take these the deferred resignations. They would put them on administrative leave until now. So the reason that right now we believe that these 100,000 plus, more or less, workers will be leaving today is because this is when that paid leave would end. So that's when we believe that we'll see the mass resignations today. Others will go till the end of the year, that kind of thing, but we are also watching that as well, and trying to get a handle on any sort of local effects that would have on any programs here, that kind of thing here in Minnesota and in our region. Let's see, I wanted to go over a couple of more things. If you're just joining us, we are waiting to hear from the DFL now on the special progress on the special session over potential gun reform here in Minnesota. We just heard from the GOP, who laid out kind of where they're at with things, and then now we're waiting for the DFL. While we do that, do you mind if I just read, if I go to this one regional story that we did not get to here with Rochester, because this is kind of a cool story from Rochester Mayo. The Post-Bulletin with this story, talking about Rochester Mayo High School. You have just been recognized with the Special Olympics National Banner Award, one of only 5 Minnesota high schools to get that award this year. At Mayo continues to expand through activities like unified classes, clubs, and special events, like the annual district-wide Special Olympics Unified Bowling outing that involves a lot of the high schools, the mobile polar plunge. And just this past week, they hosted their annual Unified Homecoming Party and Dance. And if you're not familiar with the Unified programs, maybe if you don't have somebody in high school or you're not familiar, it's an amazing program where athletes or different clubs have students from high schools, and they are paired with students who are involved with Special Olympics as well, and of different abilities, and they all just work together. They're on basketball teams together, they compete, there are tournaments, they are different clubs that they're able to include everybody, and they're just amazing programs. And so congratulations to Mayo High School in Rochester for being recognized as one of the best in the class when it comes to their inclusion revolution, as we like to say. A couple of other notes here that I want to share with you, because a big thing happened in the world of sports today, local sports. It's been a week for sports fans here in Minnesota, right? We had Rocco Baldelli being fired by the Twins yesterday. That was, earth-shaking for a lot of people. And then today, some good news for Wild fans. Kirill Kaprizov has signed his deal. There are a lot of people who were nervous about this, a lot of people speculating. So that all comes to an end. It is an 8-year deal, $136 million. So he will be with the Wild through the 2033-34 season. And they're saying, they like to say things. They're saying that it's the richest contract in history in the NHL. And we had part of that announcement earlier and got to hear from Kirill a little bit. We'll have much more coming up on our newscast here throughout the afternoon, and also on our website. You can check out our website. And you know what? I'm going to do that right now. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to our website, because I do this sometimes on commercial breaks and things. I'll go into our internal channels and then also go on our website just to see what some of the stories are, because they often hit here first. that investigation in White Bear Lake at the high school. If you haven't heard about that, they are looking into a student who was enrolled in the high school. Oh, here they are. Okay. We're going to bring you now to the DFL commenting on the progress on a potential special session. Let's listen in. This is Zach Stevenson, representative.
Myself, the governor put out a offer in good faith to our Republican colleagues to have a special session to address the gun violence we've been seeing across the state and across the country in recent days. That offer included provisions that we feel very strongly about, that the community feels very strongly about, that the families feel very strongly about, including banning assault weapons and banning high-capacity magazines. We also reached across the aisle and picked up some ideas that our Republican colleagues have been saying are important to them, because we do recognize in order to pass any meaningful gun violence prevention measures through the legislature, we will need votes from both Democrats and Republicans. So we came to the table in good faith and put out an offer that we thought addressed all of those issues. But I'm feeling discouraged after listening to my Republican colleagues just now, because I hear on the one hand that we need to have an open process where all legislators can be involved, and in the very same press conference I heard Leader Niska say that there wasn't a single Republican vote for an assault weapons ban and that he wasn't even going to bring it to the floor. That's not an open process, but it is the truth that there isn't Republican support for these gun bills. And I think Minnesotans have the answer that they've been looking for about what the Republican position is on guns, that they're not even willing to have a vote on the floor, on the merits, on these very important issues. And that's deeply disappointing to me. It's deeply disappointing to my caucus. Our caucus, which has done incredible work in recent years on gun violence. We passed universal background checks and red flag laws that we know are saving lives. There was a great report in the Star Tribune just this week documenting how many successful cases of red flag laws have been passed in recent years. Though every time that happens, we're saving lives and preventing gun violence. We want to build upon that work. We want to do the work that Minnesotans expect of us. We want to do the work that the families expect of us. But it's unfortunate that our Republican colleagues don't share that resolve. So I'm feeling discouraged today, but still resolute. We're going to not give up. We're going to keep fighting, and we're going to make sure that we, at some point in the future, pass these measures, because that's what Minnesotans want.
Good afternoon. I am glad to be with my fellow leader, Zach Stevenson, and with Governor Walz in our determination to bring to the legislature in a special session a suite of measures that we believe will impact and improve the lives of people and keep our kids and our communities safe from gun violence. And we believe we cannot do that without legislation dealing with guns. And so with work over the course of a series of meetings, we did put together a proposal that we believed would meet with bipartisan support, would also achieve the goal that we need right now, which is compromise to make progress. And I think in this legislature particularly, in a divided, so closely divided legislature, we can't just look for bipartisanship. When we have to solve our most difficult issues, and let's say that keeping our kids safe from gun violence in schools is a difficult issue in this legislature right now. I don't understand why, but it is a difficult issue politically in this legislature right now. It requires compromise, not just bipartisan support. And the makeup of the legislature right now requires Republican votes to get this agenda across the line. And I am frustrated that I hear we haven't done any work and there aren't votes. I'm counting my votes, and in the Minnesota Senate, not only have we prepared for a special session with not one but two hearings, taking up a number of issues, dealing with gun violence prevention, including legislation to ban high-capacity magazines and to ban assault weapons. My Republican colleagues in the Senate
we are
who
going to
came
say
to the
goodbye
hearing.
to those of you watching on Fox 9. You can continue streaming and watching this live on Fox Local and fox9.com.
I think for Minnesotans to understand that there are people serving in the legislature that want to protect our communities from weapons of war. And we're willing to do it by making compromise with our Republican colleagues. They are not. We're at an impasse. I'm not surprised, but I am undeterred and will continue to work with my colleagues in the House and with the governor to make progress and to bring Minnesotans into a discussion around what it means to ban weapons of war in making sure our kids and our communities are safe. Thank you.
Is this the end of negotiations between the four caucuses and the governor for now?
I don't think that we're ever going to give up on trying to reach an agreement, because we're never going to give up on taking meaningful action to prevent gun violence. And in order to pass anything, we will need Republican votes, which is what we've been saying all along, that the state deserves clarity from Republicans about what they are willing to do when it comes to guns. And I think you got it today, because I heard Leader Niska say that there wasn't a single vote in his caucus for an assault weapons ban. So I think we got the clarity that we're looking for, that Republicans aren't willing to vote for meaningful measures to decrease gun violence in our state.
Is there cooperation though on your part? I understand when the Republicans got the plan that you worked out, it was signed by you but not by them. So are you willing to make a compromise within the parameters of all the things you listed to do? Maybe you don't do the ghost gun thing. Like, is there a give and take in that plan? Or are you just, that's the plan and take it or leave it?
Well, it'd be pretty unusual. It was an offer. It'd be pretty unusual for me to sign someone else's name to an offer sheet. We signed our names because we're making that offer to them. And it was just that, an offer that could be negotiated. And I was hoping that we get exactly the kind of counteroffer back that you described. I was hoping that Republican leadership would come back to the table and say, these are some meaningful things we can do on guns, and maybe these are some things we can't, and maybe here are some additional ideas. Instead, they came back and made a process argument about how we need to let every legislator come in. They're hiding behind process. Minnesotans are tired of excuses. They want action.
Leader Murphy, how many members of your caucus would vote yes on this assault weapons ban if it was held in law?
This is a hard vote, I think, for every caucus, Democrat and Republican. Having been through this experience a decade ago, it is a consequential vote, and this is an important moment for Minnesotans. My colleagues are working very hard to understand how they will vote when this issue comes before them, and I'm counting my votes, and I will let you know. But no one has said hell no, and I think Minnesotans and my colleagues understand that this moment is important, and they're taking it very seriously.
Have you talked to, like, say, Senator Seeberger or Hostile, any of the three?
You know that I am talking with all of my members, yes.
But have they said, because obviously none of this, it's kind of a moot point if the Senate can't pass, even if you guys are 34, have you gotten any indication that they'd even be open to it?
I am talking with my members.
And can I say it's not a moot point? I mean, there are 201 members of the legislature. 100 of them are Republicans. If Republicans would come to the table and do something meaningful on gun violence, we could get it passed. The focus should be on the fact that there are apparently 0 of 100 Republicans willing to do something meaningful on gun violence.
So there's no special session?
We're continuing to work for one. We want one. We want
How do
to.
you see it even happening?
We're going to have to continue to have the conversation. We're going to have to continue to talk to the public, and the public is going to have to talk to their legislators.
The last meaningful legislation passed on gun violence prevention was done in 2023 when we had Democratic control and a full governing majority. And I think Minnesotans should understand that perhaps that's it's going to take, but it can't be the responsibility of Democrats alone to keep our kids safe in schools and keep weapons of war off the street. It should not be Democrats alone. This requires Republican votes, and we need them in order to move this agenda forward.
The response from Leader Johnson says Democrats abruptly ended the meeting and indicated they would no longer work with Republicans to find agreement for a special session. Is that what happened?
What we did was recognize in the room together that we're at an impasse. And we were clear that we were going to share our offer with the public because I think it's important for the public to know. And it's important for us to act with integrity, and we are. But no one has said we wouldn't go back to the table. I'd be happy to go back to the table to find a path forward on a special session that bans weapons of war.
Do you think you have support for the constitutional amendment that the governor sort of floated in the Post Festival this weekend?
That, just like any other provisions that deal directly with guns, requires Republican votes.
But you say you'd be happy to go back to the table, but here we are at a press conference. Is that because they told you they weren't going to put up any votes, or were you just hearing that at the press conference here now? I mean, what prompted sort of this throwing up of the hands?
Well, I think we reached an impasse. Certainly not going to get into the details of exactly what was said by who and where and when, but we've reached a clear impasse, and we wanted to have the opportunity to communicate to the public about where we're at. We made a good faith offer here that includes some provisions that are very important to us, but more importantly, they're important to Minnesotans and to the families. And then we also included provisions that Republicans have said are important to them. We didn't come out and say our way or the highway. We didn't come out and say only the things that are important to us. We made a good faith effort to reach common ground, and what we got in return was nothing.
So is the idea right now that a special session will just be held and some of these gun proposals, like Ms. Sullivan's ban, are just going to get stuck in committee, like they won't even go to a floor vote? Is that what you're expecting right now?
I'm expecting that the governor is going to exercise what is his authority to call a special session when he decides to do that. And we're going to come prepared to work if he does, and we'll take a vote.
Is your understanding that the governor is willing to call a special session where things stand right now with Republicans on board?
I think what the governor wants and what we want is to pass meaningful gun violence prevention measures at the earliest possible opportunity, and we will continue to work to do that.
Well, the governor's office said October 6th is when you have to have agreement in order to call the 12th.
That was the proposal that we put before the Republicans today. It's an offer that's on the table. If they want to accept it right now, I would still accept their signature on that offer. But that was an offer, and as we talked about a minute ago, you know, that was something that could have been negotiated.
Leader Murphy, is your understanding that with the makeup of the Senate right now, if a special session were called with Republicans on board, that they would, you know, I guess not hold the process up with procedural motions and that sort of thing? I guess play nice is maybe the right word.
You know, we haven't spent much time talking about those details of a special session, and given our experience over the last year and the work that we have done with the Republicans in both the House and the Senate, I would anticipate that we would come in and do our work in an orderly fashion for the people of Minnesota. And I do want to say that we are talking right now about a tragedy that happened in Minnesota. We lost 2 kids in a brutal shooting. Many more people were injured than that. That doesn't happen that often in Minnesota. For the community of Annunciation and for Minneapolis and for many other communities, they view it as a crisis that requires action, just like we would see when a bridge collapses, when there's a tornado or a flood. They're wondering why we can't act. That's what they're expecting of us. So I think that if we come in, if the governor calls us in, I would hope that all of my legislative colleagues would recognize that we're on very tender territory for Minnesotans who have been harmed by something that they never anticipated or expected, and we should act with the kind of dignity that they would expect and deserve.
This October 12th date that's in the offer, is that set in stone as when a special session would happen, or is that just what was on the offer?
We made a proposal, we made an offer. We were happy to negotiate all of the specifics of that offer, including the dates.
Is there a point at which you call off negotiations and wait till the regular session? Or is this something you want to get done?
We are 100% committed to passing gun violence prevention measures as soon as possible, and we're never going to give up on that. For our caucus, this is very personal. The reason why I'm talking to you, as I've said before, is because our leader was killed in an act of gun violence. We're not going to give up on this. We'll keep talking about it throughout the rest of the interim, if that's what it takes, throughout a regular session, in the campaign, and into 2027. We're in it for the long haul. That's what Minnesotans expect, that we get these results.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so now we have heard from the DFL as well, as we just heard from the GOP a few minutes prior. Both sides giving their perspective and update on how they see these negotiations going as the Democrats try to move toward this special session on gun reform potentially here in Minnesota. We are also waiting for a news conference to start here at about 2:15 that we want to bring to you live as well, and that is going to be about some of these the new traffic camera safety program, specifically in Minneapolis, where 5 of these are going to be going up at certain intersections, with some more going up in the future. But they're holding a little bit of a kind of a news conference today to talk a little bit about that and let people know that the cameras themselves are going live today, but the actual the program, any citations won't start until tomorrow. So we will bring that to you as soon as that gets going as well. So it is 2:08 right now. We are going to take a quick break, and again, stay with us here, streaming live on All Day Live as we continue to follow the day's events as they're happening. We'll be right back.